com.
Ow! That's gonna leave a mark. You just got right hooked. It's Steve Hook on Right Hook Radio.
All right, we welcome you back to Right Hook Radio. I am Steve Hook. And I must tell you, I am thrilled about our next guest, SIDNEY Powell. SIDNEY worked in the, she worked in the Department of Justice for 10 years in 3 federal districts under 9 United States attorneys from both political parties. She's a lead counsel of more than 500 federal appeals. She's the author of License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. And just an all-around brilliant woman, and we welcome her to the program now. SIDNEY, hello. Welcome to Right Hook Radio. How are you?
Thanks so much, Steve. I'm great. I hope you're well, too.
I'm doing well, and a happy Easter to you. And by the way, Steve Malzberg wanted us to tell you hello. So hello from Steve.
I appreciate that.
You got
Back
it.
at him.
Well, SIDNEY, it's a real thrill to have you on Right Hook Radio, and again, I thank you for it. I just want to... I'm sure you did, but I will ask anyway. Did you watch the William Barr interview with Ingram this past week?
I saw most of it.
It sounds to me like much is going on behind the scenes that we are not quite privy to yet concerning the Durham investigation. But this also dovetails into your case with Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Why don't you shed a little bit of light on how that's coming along? Because here's a man that I feel, and most Americans that have been paying attention probably feel, he got completely railroaded by this DOJ. And where do we stand on the Flynn case now?
He was completely railroaded. There was no crime. The government made it up. We have moved to withdraw his guilty plea for a number of reasons. The government's prosecutorial misconduct and breach of the plea agreement. His own lawyers had an egregious conflict of interest that was so bad he could not have even consented to it, and they should never have represented him past August of 2017. And we've also moved to dismiss the entire case for egregious government misconduct. We only learned in December of this past year from the Inspector General report that the FBI had slipped an agent into what was supposed to be a presidential briefing back in August of 2016 because Flynn was going to be there with President Trump, or nominee Trump at the time.
Yep.
And that was 2 days after Strzok and Page texted each other about the insurance policy on August 15th. Then on August 16th, they opened the investigation on Flynn, and on August 17th, they slipped the agent into the presidential briefing, admittedly to assess and gauge Flynn's mannerisms and collect information on him in case they needed to interview him later, i.e. if Trump wound up in the White House.
It sounds like it's Kafkaesque what they've done to this man, and I am really and truly stunned by it because it's symptomatic of what happened during the entire process. You mentioned Page and Strzok. McCabe is in there, Andy as they referred to him. General Flynn has taken a financial beating, a civil liberties beating, and the railroading is so unbelievable. Do you suspect, and I think many Americans do suspect, that he's going to get a full and clear pardon from the president? Do you see that in the offing?
Well, what we would prefer is that the legal system work properly and that he be completely exonerated by the court system and the Department of Justice, which needs to admit its own egregious misconduct in the handling of this case and the conduct of the FBI agents in particular. I mean, we have evidence now that not only did they slip that agent into the presidential briefing, which is unprecedented and will never happen again, according to Christopher Wray, it was so bad. Mm-hmm. They also altered the FBI report of the interview. They've refused to produce the original one. It cannot go missing because the FBI's Sentinel system logs everything, including any attempted destruction of it.
Right.
So that evidence is all there and has not been given to us. There's a DOJ memo of January 30th, 2017, that completely exonerates him of being an agent of Russia or anything related to Russia. The agents came back from the interview and told people in 3 different briefings at the highest levels that they felt like he was telling the truth to them, including the agent who had done the prior assessment of him that wasn't disclosed to us. There was no crime. They made it all up. We have evidence that they literally schemed and met the day before to figure out how to best interview him to keep him unguarded and relaxed. So not only was he not warned of his rights, they planned to interview him in such a way that he did not even know he was the subject of the interview.
Wow.
And then they altered the 302 multiple times until McCabe finally approved it on February 15 after Flynn left the White House.
Yeah. Now, do we know who altered those 302s? Is that a Peter Strzok, Lisa Page inside job there?
Yes, it is.
I'll be damned. How much faith do you have in Director Wray, Sidney?
None. Absolutely none. If I had any faith, and he could produce the original 302. He could come clean on all of this, and he hasn't done a damn thing except stonewall everything.
Mm-hmm. And you think that's because Christopher Wray is more concerned with protecting the agency's reputation than actually asserting justice? It sounds like that's kind of where you're at.
Well, I don't even know I don't know what his motivation is. It makes no sense to me, because if you want people to have confidence in the DOJ or the FBI, the only way to do that is to admit all the wrongs, expose all the wrongdoers, fire and prosecute all the wrongdoers, and move on. But as long as they're trying to stonewall and cover up anything, nobody's going to have any faith in them.
Okay. Well, yeah, exactly right now. Okay, so Christopher Wray is on your naughty list. What is your take on A.G. Barr?
I really like A.G. Barr. I think the world of him. I just wish they would move faster. It is taking way too long to clean up this disaster.
And on that front, do you think that Attorney General Barr is kind of keeping his cards close to his chest because he is waiting for this Durham report? Is that what everybody's waiting for?
Yes, and for whatever the investigation is Mr. Durham's been doing to get to an end. But, I mean, good Lord, it's been well over a year that he's been going about it, and I understand it's big and complicated, but they could have started doing things sooner and faster from my perspective.
Sure.
They could certainly move to dismiss the case against General Flynn, because they have to know that's completely concocted and distorted and coerced and everything else.
Well, let me just ask you this. How is General Flynn now? How is he doing?
He's doing very well. He's just fed up with, being silenced effectively and unable to go about his regular business.
Yeah, he had to sign a non-disclosure agreement, did he not? I mean, is that why he's been so quiet? I mean, I think a judge basically put a gag order on him, correct?
Well, there was one for a little bit, but it's not that as much as it is being appropriate and discreet to allow the process to work.
Well, that speaks to his character and yours, for that matter. But I understand you are fired up about this, and for all the right reasons. Okay, so do you have faith in John Durham? Because we were told that John Durham is a pit bull prosecutor, and that his MO is going after dirty cops and dirty polls. How do you perceive John Durham going with this?
I don't know him personally, but I do know he has a reputation of being a straight shooter and, walking it down the line. And that's a good thing. He has certainly prosecuted FBI agents before, and I know he freed 2 people that had been wrongly convicted by Mr. Mueller back in the day. So
Sure.
I'm hopeful that he will get to the bottom of everything and prosecute the people that need to be prosecuted. There are a lot of them, more than people want to admit, but it's got to happen.
Well, to that very point, we're speaking with SIDNEY Powell. Who do you suspect is going to be? Now, I'm not trying to put you on the spot here, but who do you suspect is really on the hook in a big way on this?
I wish I knew. I mean, to me, it certainly ought to be John Brennan, James Comey, Andrew McCabe, more of the upper echelon at the DOJ. And
Clapper,
the
perhaps?
Yes. I mean, we have evidence that Clapper told was behind the leak about General Flynn's conversation with Kislyak in a big way, and also told David Ignatius of the Washington Post to go ahead and take the kill shot, or words to that effect, on General Flynn on January 10th, and then the story came out on January 12th that started the whole media feeding frenzy.
Yeah. And those two, to think that they are on the payroll of MSNBC and CNN, respectively, is just it's maddening. Do you think that the COVID-19 crisis that we're going through do you think that's put anything on the back burner? Or do you think that the wheels of justice continue to turn just slow? And if so, is the coronavirus playing a role in that?
Oh, I am absolutely livid about this whole coronavirus thing and the fact that the United States of America shut down for anything.
Yeah.
We have got to open back up immediately, if not sooner, because the devastation that's occurring and the unintended collateral consequences are going to be far more reaching than people think right now.
That's exactly what I was saying in the first hour monologue, is that people still have food on their table. They're still allowed to go get gas and drive around. And it's not until it personally affects each and every one of them that they start saying, hey, well, wait a minute, maybe civil liberties are kind of important, huh?
Oh, God. I mean, we've seen an absolute devastation of civil liberties, but it's the people who live paycheck to paycheck, and that's a large portion of this country that are absolutely in dire straits right now. And the $1,250 that's coming this week or next week will help. But nothing substitutes for having something to do and being able to go about your daily business on a normal basis. I mean, okay, so somebody wants to wear a mask or they want to stay 6 feet apart and not hug somebody, fine. But, tell us what the real problem is, how we need to go about living our daily lives to accommodate for it. But that can only be guidance. This is supposed to be a free country.
Right.
And we've just given our enemies a blueprint for how to destroy the United States of America.
Good point. Do you think that President Trump has ceded too much authority to Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx?
I think they probably gave him such egregiously wrong information. He felt like he had to do this. I know he wouldn't have done it otherwise. But I hope now that he sees that it was a gross overreaction. For whatever reason, they encouraged this, and it's got to be stopped and everything reopened immediely. It
almost sounds like you have an opinion on Fauci that you're just keeping under your breath. I agree. I think that the country has to be opened up. And, I'd never even thought about that, but that is a blueprint for destroying this country. Just release a biological weapon on the country and watch it completely shut down. Well, I tell you what, Sidney, let me ask you this. Getting back to Flynn and the whole DOJ corruption that is rampant, you've seen some of these 302s, correct?
Yes. In fact, if people want to read the altered 302s, they can see them on my website at SIDNEYPOWELL.com. There's a page on General Flynn under the media tab, and they can read the documents for themselves because I attached them as exhibits to our motions.
Well, yeah, and I've read them, and that's the only reason I mentioned that. But and it's kind of mind-boggling to think that in the United States of America, this happened to a lieutenant general, for God's sakes. I mean, if it can happen to him, the old saying goes, it can happen to anybody.
Well, he was their tool to get to the president, and then they had to continue to prosecute General Flynn to try to keep the obstruction of justice narrative going against the president that Comey set up when he went to visit him on February 14th in the White House.
Where Clapper and Brennan sat outside waiting for him to be done with the conversation.
Well, they'd already exonerated General Flynn of everything when Comey talked to President Trump that day, and the president said, well, I hope you can see to let this Flynn thing go. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
And instead of telling him, Mr. President, we already have, we've cleared him of lying to the FBI, we've exonerated him of being an agent of Russia, we've cleared him of everything. Comey goes out and starts the whole obstruction narrative.
Well, by God, Comey would look good in orange. That's all I'm going to say. Well, Sidney Powell, listen, it's a genuine honor to have you on the program, and I'd certainly love to be able to have you back as this thing continues to ramp up and as we get through this COVID-19 crisis that we're currently in. I look forward to seeing the Durham report, watching the AG Barr Laura Ingraham interview, I heard a lot of stuff that he didn't say, just kind of implicated. I mean, just kind of insinuated that things are going to happen. That Durham, I think Ingraham at one point asked him, what is he looking to do towards the end of this? And he basically said prosecutions. So I'm sure that your fingers are crossed for that, and I hope it happens sooner rather than later, because this kind of injustice just cannot continue in this country.
No, it can't. If we want to have a republic founded on the rule of law, we've got to open the country back up, allow business to be conducted as usual with slight modifications for those who feel like they need them, and people to be prosecuted equally across the board, regardless of their political party or station in life.
Correct. Good. Well said. Now, going forward here, when all is said and done, and we get to the bottom of this, I think the media should be held in utter contempt. One last question: what is your take on the state of today's American media?
Oh, it's absolutely pathetic. You can follow a few people on Twitter to get the actual truth and forget the mainstream media, with the exception of a few of the Fox people that report what's actually true. Sarah Carter and John Solomon are great, and there are a lot of good, honest reporters out there that want to find out what the truth is. And, of course, Hannity usually has them on, and Laura Ingraham and Tucker Carlson, but they're few and far between that are willing to tackle the tough issues.
And it's because it's so agenda-driven. I mean, they can't stand this president. They're using a worldwide pandemic as a cudgel against the man. I've never seen anything so despicable in all my life, and I've been following this for a long damn time.
Yes, I absolutely agree with you.
Well, Sidney Powell, the book, by the way, and it's a great, great book, License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. I thank you so much for taking some time on this Saturday. I wish you the happiest of Easters, and we look forward to chatting with you again at some point, Sidney. And please tell Michael Flynn, General Flynn, that we're all rooting for him, and we can't wait until he can be fully exonerated and come out and talk.
I will definitely do that. And we also have a new book out, Conviction Machine, Standing Up to Federal Prosecutorial Abuse, that I co-authored with Harvey Silverglate.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Well, I'm glad that you met. Yeah, we will link to that as well. And again, we thank you so much for taking some time out. I know it's hectic, and I know you're busy. So.
Covington and his former lawyers just found new documents the other night.
What'd you say? New documents?
Yeah, his former lawyers just found 52 pages that they had not produced to us 9 months ago when they gave us 18 hard drives that was supposed to constitute his entire file, and they've advised that there may be more that they missed.
Oh, my gosh. It's just... this goes to Director Wray. This goes to Director Wray, does it not? I mean, isn't he the guy he is the guy with his he's the little Dutch boy with the finger in the dike.
Well, this part was the former firm. It was their own internal documents.
I'll be damned.
Yeah.
Well, I have a feeling that when all this is said and done, Lieutenant General Michael Flynn will be exonerated fully, as he rightfully should be, and you will be hailed as a great civil libertarian and standing up for the rights of all Americans, not just the general, and we thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, we look forward to chatting with you again. Sidney Powell, God bless. Happy Easter. Take care.
You too.
All right,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Wow, that was strong. She's so great. Okay, listen, I'm Steve Hook. Stick around. More with Right Hook Radio coming up next.
So you've decided to go to college. Pop quiz. Which is a better way to earn your degree? Commute to college and fill your gas tank, get stuck in traffic, drive in bad weather, try to find a parking space, walk a half mile to class, or learn online at